There are lots of myths in your mind. There are lots of questions in your mind, especially when you're wanting to move your child from a national to an international curriculum. So let's begin today's PowerPoint, in which we'll try to throw some, what would I say, some light, sort of bust some myths which are in your mind. Before we begin, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Farzana Tohadwala. I have been a national school head for over 30 years. I've been with the IB. I brought the IB movement into the country for 17 years. So sort of, I am a very well-balanced person, understanding national curriculum and international curriculum. So I'm speaking from those two hats which I wear to throw more clarifications on your path. We also have with us Mr. Nitin. Mr. Nitin, would you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Good morning, participants, and thank you for being with us this morning. My name is Nitin Padte, and I have been with international schools and IB schools for the last 25 years. I am the director of Mainadevi Bajaj International School presently, and I'm the director of 3 other schools of Rajasthani Sammelan, which are of national board too. And hence, I thought for this discussion, we have a balanced team here. Just like Farzana, I play innumerous roles within the IB, including workshop leader, school visiting team leader, moderator, examiner, etc., etc. So I'm quite excited about this webinar actually, because this is a question that arises all the time as we do students admissions. Parents coming from national curriculums always have this question: why should my child come into an international curriculum? What are the challenges? Okay, will my child be able to appear for competitive examination? Will my child necessarily have to go abroad? And these are the kind of questions that Farzana madam and I, with our experience, will try to address. Farzana, please go ahead.
Yes, sure. Just wondering why my slide has got stuck. Just give me a moment. I don't know why my slide was okay.
While we are waiting for Farzana to fix slideshow, I think she is already there. Farzana, your slideshow is on.
So, friends, this is something which is very close to my heart, and it sort of tells you about the mindset of Indians. This was an article which was written by India Today some time ago, and they did a whole research piece which was very close to my heart, which says what's wrong with our teaching in India. And what they did is they got the best schools across Pan India, I'm talking about, and they got the toppers in each of these curriculum schools, and they sent them some very simple questions to answer. What happened was that they fumbled, because there was so much by rote. They used to just be content crazy. So when even slightly out of the box questions were asked, they fumbled. That's when this piece was written, which is like an eye opener for all educationists, that what is wrong with our teaching. Across the world, India is supposed to be like an education powerhouse, basically because the Guru Shishya Parampara, the way we taught and learned with the Nalanda University of yesteryears. But suddenly we have the IITs now with us, but suddenly we are losing our sheen, at the PISA. I'm sure most of you all know, at the PISA test, which was done some years ago, out of 73 countries, we were second last. That's pathetic. We are an intelligent country. We have people with lot of acumen. And why are they migrating to US and UK and Singapore? There is potential, but have we actually tapped the potential, And there was another test done, 15-year-old Indians were put on a global stage. And, again, we came second to last. Last was which? Pakistan. So you see, we have abilities, but our schools have not been able to nurture our abilities at all. So let's think of a change. This is India. We have a lot of not only cultural heritage but also educational acumen. Zero invented in India. The old, the ancient universities. People came to do research in India, and suddenly, why are we now lagging behind? It's something for all of us to think. So now, as parents, you're here today on a Sunday morning because there are two vital questions which are in your mind. And what are these questions, friends? Do you want to give your children wings, or do you want to give your children roots? So what do I mean by wings and roots? By wings, I mean, do you want your child to fly high in the academic sky, be ready, future ready? Or do you want to give him traditional roots, traditions, which we've gone through, respect, culture, the works? I'm sure as a question, you all will all tell me it will be a combination of the two, wings and roots. Because of course we want our child to have, as Indians, we are all very proud about our culture, our traditions, and we want that to be, imbibed even in our children. And on the other hand, we also want them to be future ready. So that's where the next question comes. Then what is it that we need to choose for our children? Do we want, now let's look at the different boards which are available in Mumbai, SSE, ICSE, CBSE, or international curriculums, that's Cambridge and IB, So what do we have to choose? That's a question where, because of that, you're here today. I want to tell you, ask yourself, what are the needs of the 21st century learners? How will I get my child ready? So what are these differentiators between these different boards, and why do we need this change? I'm sharing one lovely video which talks about, why schools are not important in today's time.
There is a growing feeling today that something is wrong with our system of education. But what is it? Well, we send our children to school to prepare them for the real world, which is changing very, very fast. But our schools haven't changed much for hundreds of years. In fact, thought leaders from around the world agree that the current system of education was designed in the industrial age mainly to churn out factory workers. And this industrial age mentality of mass production and mass control still runs deep in schools. Industrial age values. We educate children by batches and govern their lives by ringing bells. All day long, students do nothing but follow instructions. Sit down. Take out your books. Turn to page 40. Solve problem number 3. Stop talking. At school, you're rewarded for doing exactly what you are told. These are industrial age values that were really important for factory workers. Their success depended on following instructions and doing exactly what they were told. But in today's world, how far can you get by simply following instructions? The modern world values people who can be creative, who can communicate their ideas and collaborate with others. But our children don't get a chance to develop such skills in a system that's based on industrial age values. Lack of autonomy and control. At school, our children experience a complete lack of autonomy and control. Every minute of a child's life is tightly controlled by the system. But in today's world, if you're doing important work, then you're managing your own time. You're making your own decisions regarding what to do and when to do it. But life at school looks very different. The system is sending a dangerous message to our children that they are not in charge of their own lives. They just have to follow whatever is laid down instead of taking charge and making the most of their lives. Experts believe autonomy is incredibly important for children. It's no wonder then that our children are bored and demotivated by school. Can you imagine how you would feel if you were told exactly what to do for every minute of your life? Inauthentic learning. Most of the learning that happens in schools today is not authentic because it relies on memorization and rote learning. The system defines a generic set of knowledge that all children must know. And then, every few months, we measure how much has been retained by administering exams. We know that such learning is not authentic because most of it is gone the day after the exam. Learning can be much deeper and more authentic. It can be so much more than just memorization and retention. But that's the only thing we measure, and test scores are the only thing we value. This has created an extremely unhealthy culture for students, parents, and teachers. Children are going through endless hours of tuitions, staying up all night memorizing useless facts that they will forget very soon. No room for passions and interests. We have an extremely standardized system where each child must learn the same thing at the same time in the same way as everyone else. This doesn't respect the basic fact of being human, that each of us is unique and different in our own way. We all have different passions and interests. And the key to fulfillment in life is to find your passion. But do the schools of today help our children find and develop their passion? There seems to be no room in the current education system for the most important questions in a child's life. What am I good at? What do I want to do in life? How do I fit into this world? The system doesn't seem to care. There are so many greatly talented people who failed in the traditional school system. Fortunately, they were able to overcome these failures, but not everyone can. We have no measure for how much talent, how much potential goes unrecognized in the current system. There is a growing feeling today that something is wrong with our system of education.
So you see, friends, this whole thing about, our schools performing their function. And that's exactly what we are talking about, that we are not interested in making our children into mass factory productions. And that's exactly where the international education comes to play. It gives our children, it's like a melting pot, friends, and our children develop global perspectives. They learn about different cultures, ethnic groups, and of course languages. And thus we are broadening the experience, the academic experience of our children. And this will help our children to be future ready. So why is it so important from your child's perspective, international education? Because the child will know his own identity, his passion, his beliefs, his culture, and also be able to do something which is unique, which is not a factory model. And that's where they learn about many things, about different perspectives, about appreciating diversity, respecting others, and also building, skills with diverse groups. The world is now a global village, friends. And in this global village, see our businesses. We work across the nations. We work across continents. So our children have to be that open-minded. They have to be able to deal with different perspectives, So to face the challenges of an interconnected world, friends, there is a need for international education. I'm not saying, yes?
Farzana, may I come in here with reference to your video for a second?
Yes, please.
So what happens usually is that parents do backward mapping in terms of making choices for the children's educational career. So the parents may have in mind that my child needs to be a chartered accountant, an engineer, a medical person, a computer person, and then they start doing backward mapping and saying that, this is the education that is most suitable for my child. That, like the video says, that keeps out what the child herself may want to do or want to become or even find out. Okay, so what happens in an international school, as Farzana will tell you at a later stage, is that it makes you an independent learner. Okay, that is what the video is also highlighting, that how will you become an independent learner? How will you become a decision maker? Okay, because the mode of delivery in an international school is not that I teach and you learn, but it is a method where we learn together. Sorry, Farzan, I thought I wanted to say this thing, right?
Yes, please step in every time. It's important. I mean, it's this interaction which will add fruit for our audience, you know. Yeah. So what is the differentiator between that factory model of schooling, which you and I have studied? And sometimes you may ask me, you know, you and I studied in this model, then we are successful in life. So why change it? That factory model will work for our children. No, friends, we are now into the 21st century. It's more about skills. When we learned, there was not so much of an internet revolution. There was not so much content on our fingertips, you know. Now what they require is skills. So actually, if you see, I don't want my children to be robots. And when I press a button, the same action is done by all my children, you know. So let's choose curriculums. Let's see where the teacher is able to tap into the potential of every child, unlock the creativity of the child, and make him a problem solver, because that is what the future skills that are required, you know. If you start thinking of, you know, I want a 95%, you know, many times I meet many of these rickshaw drivers, car drivers, and they say, hum to graduate hai madam, ab teacher hai, to aap kyun taxi chala rahe hai? Madam, kuch job hi nahi hai. So in today's time, it's not so easy to get a job just with that factory education. You have to be a problem solver. You have to have the communication skills. I'll share another video with you all, friends. And
so at this point, we're going to share our responses. Remember to use your participation cards. So participation cards are a set of index cards which have labels on them. I agree, I disagree, or I don't know how to respond. We use them to assess students' understanding, but we also use them to give students voice. Pose a question. What was the summary of this excerpt?
The summary of these 2 pages is that Mrs. Wise is setting Jasmine up to fail.
Scholars will listen to the responses and then they will use their participation cards.
I respectfully disagree with you. What can the reader infer about Miss Wise based on paragraph 2?
We obviously cannot have 24 scholars speaking at the same time, but we want everyone to feel their ideas matter. Even if I am very shy and I don't feel comfortable, my voice was still heard. So at this point, we're going to share.
So you see, friends, what did we see in this video? It was a methodology, which is the main difference between international and national curriculum. In a national curriculum, it's the teacher talks majority of time. There is a little bit of group discussion in the modern schools, but most of the time it is not student-led classrooms. You saw in the video which I showed you something like called participation cards. There was some content which was delivered, like it would be delivered even in a national curriculum. But what happens after that? After that, what happens is that the children interact and each one has a voice. Today, student voice and students' choice is very, very essential. That's what the world is talking about. And they're able to voice, plus they are able to do constructive criticism. So they are able to help their friends see it, or if they have a viewpoint, a perspective, they should be able to explain why they said what they said, you know. So this type of interaction makes even the quiet child put up his participation card and say, I don't agree with it, you know. Sometimes verbal, only putting up a hand, you have the best kids in class raising their hands. But certain strategies like this, which is the differentiator, you know. I'll share another strategy with you all. This is more where we do transdisciplinary learning. So when you're doing something about physics and you're teaching also PE, see how the teachers collaborate and they teach.
Now I'd like you to make a prediction. In my left hand, I have a basketball. In my right hand, a 5-kilogram medicine ball. If I hold them both above my head and then let them go simultaneously, which one will hit the ground first? The answer is, although the force of gravity on the black ball is greater, it has a greater mass and therefore greater inertia, so it requires more force to accelerate it. There's less gravitational force on the basketball, but because its mass is lower, it has less inertia and therefore requires less force to accelerate it at the same rate as the medicine ball. Let's give it a try. 3, 2, 1.
So you see.
Now I'd like you to make a prediction.
So you see, friends, Nitin, if you would like to talk about what we do at MBIS so that learning becomes more experiential in school, you know. We can't hear you, Nitin, you're muted. Thank you.
Method at my school, Mahanadevi Bajaj International School, is that it follows an inquiry method. It starts from what the child already knows about any topic. You have to start making links with what the child knows. And what the child knows is from life, is from her home, is from her family, is from her experiences. And when you connect what is happening in the classroom to the life outside, okay, I think the learning becomes very meaningful. They 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 want to know the reason why. Let me just give you an example. I am teaching Second World War to grade 8 students, and we were doing the rise of Nazism and the persecution of Jews. So the students asked me, sir, this happened in 1939, 1940, 41, 42. This is like, what is the relevance of this thing to us? So I said, good question. You find out and tell me. I'm not going to give you an answer. And they found out that racism, they dug deeply into racism, and they found out that racism exists even today in various forms all across the world, in the developed world as well as the underdeveloped world. And this is how learning progresses. Giving answers for me is very easy why racism is relevant, but for them to develop this research skills, these thinking skills about finding their own answers is the method that we follow in our school. Farzana, does it answer?
Yes, it does. And that is exactly, the PE teacher would be talking, the science teacher is talking about it, and the PE teacher demonstrated, and then we don't give an answer. We ask them to, guesstimate. So what would happen? And in that way, they are thinking about what they have thought and whether it was right or wrong. And such learning is so deep, friends, that it stays with the child. It's not like content heavy. So that's where my next slide comes in. So what will be the challenges your children will face? Of course, there will be some challenges. What will be the challenges? They're so used to a content-heavy curriculum in a national school, suddenly they'll move to a concept-driven curriculum. So now it's not all about 10 exercise books, it may be 2 exercise books, but it is where the concepts are made so clear and the foundation is ready for the spiral curriculum in whichever grade you plan to move your child. Remember, the content is similar across the schools. So it's not a very difficult transition, because if I move from 3 to 4 or 8 to 9 or 10 to 11, it's same. The content is similar. It's how you teach and learn which is different. So that will be the first challenge, that they will now be entering a concept-driven school, which is a fun way of learning. Like we showed you the ball example, like Nitin gave you the other example, inquiry learning. Again, what Mr. Nitin told you, rather than rote learning. We want our children to inquire. We want them to find out for themselves. Why? Because we want to develop them into self-learners. So whichever international school you choose, you need to look at that school, whether the methodologies are not, they call themselves international, but the methodology is very traditional. So that's what you need to see, what happens. It also will develop your child's presentation skills. That will be a challenge, because currently in a national curriculum, the only way they know to present is maybe a PowerPoint presentation. Here, with the PowerPoint presentation, it's group dynamics, plus it's pause, explain, then you will have the participation card, someone will question you about it. So, it's like we are preparing them for future. When you're in a corporate world and when you're presenting something to your team or to the client, such questions will come to you. So we are prepping them up to be ready for future. Communication skills, very essential. I may know everything, but if I'm not able to communicate it, no use. So we give them a lot of opportunities in different ways in most international schools to be able to communicate. And last but not the least, analytical skills. There is content, but you have to apply and analyze. And when you do that, it becomes so much fruitful. Nitin, would you want to add something to this slide?
we want the attendees to be able to distinguish between content and concept, because if you are coming from a background where you have a content heavy learning, then conceptual learning becomes difficult to understand. Let me just give you an example. In a biology class, you will go ahead and see how a plant sprouts out of a seed, then it later on flowers and later on fruits. Okay, so you'll learn about the parts of a flower, you'll learn transpiration, you'll learn chlorophyll absorption, sun absorption, etc., etc., and you'll learn lots of names. But why are you studying it? You're studying it as a part of what? So the concept that is driving this kind of learning is change. Okay, and if you see that this change at a very simple level taking place in a plant, you'll know that change is a concept that can be learned in biology, in chemistry, in economics, in history, in every subject. So this is where children become good at understanding a concept driven learning. Farzana, this was one of the points that I wanted to make from that slide.
Super. Vishaka has raised a hand. We will definitely take questions at the end of the session. So how will we or any international school help your child? So the teachers are trained in international schools. It's in the training procedure that they become guides and facilitators, especially for the new students, because we believe in the group dynamics, and in that the child will always be put into a group which will be able to help your child move from a content heavy to a concept led classrooms. The children, the new students who join the school, will be helped in these different teaching learning strategies. So it's not that you take admission, sorry, that's it, now you start learning on your own. There will be a lot of hand holding which will help the child. So I think it's a matter of the first 2 or 3 months and the child is ready, because it's not some rocket science that we are doing. It's just a different way of teaching and learning. And of course, we use a lot of ed tech in our schools, and they will also learn how to use technology. I'm sure now technology has become a way all, and they all know how to use the Zoom and they use Kahoot, but we do much more than that, So everybody talks about a growth mindset, So what is a growth mindset? It helps you to grow. So you think critically, you interpret, you decide, you align, you learn, and then you anticipate how you're going to apply this, So these type of, cycles of inquiry are very much prevalent in our classrooms, This is another video which I would like you all to see.
You have 3 minutes for your tag feedback. T, tell something you like. A, ask a question. G, give a suggestion. TAG is our school-wide critique process. It's a very quick, formative way to say, hey, this is what you did great, and here are your next steps. At the completion of a lesson, they select which work they want to critique. We have a TAG protocol sheet to write their feedback. You always want to start with a positive, something that the student did well. Then A, ask a question. Why did you make this decision? How did you do that? And then G, give a suggestion, what they can do to improve their work. They share out their feedback and their next steps.
I like how Sebastian did this guy behind the buildings.
When they come in for their next session, they're all ready to go applying feedback.
So you see, friends, what was TAG? It was just a learning strategy, which I said that your children will learn like maybe in 1 or 2 months, they'll be on back. So what does the teacher do? Again, she wants peer assessments to happen. It's not always the teacher assessing the child. TAG means we always start with tell him something positive. So when you swap papers between your partner, tell him something positive about what he's done. Maybe it's a critique, so tell him something positive. Then ask him a question. Why did you do this? Or why did you say this? Or why did you observe this? And last, give him a suggestion how he could improve. So this is again what I said, constructive criticism using peer assessment. So I will tell you finally, why should you make a transition in a nutshell? Your child will be internationally minded, developed holistically. He'll become a lifelong learner, also a self-learner, because he'll have to research himself, find his own answers. Of course, the teacher is there facilitating, Many a times the teacher, the child may come back and say, my teacher said I did not know the answer. It's not that the teacher did not know, but the teacher wants the child to go home and find out. And so in the future, any other questions, he will know where to look for. Always we make our children very service oriented. So it's not about coming to an international school, my child, his empathy, his sensitization will happen or not. We do a lot of community service initiatives, which makes our children service oriented. They work in groups, and of course, they are very honest and caring, and giving them the opportunities to be ready for jobs which are not heard of today. That is the important thing. So what is our dream for our students, who study with us, We want them to be easygoing. We want them to be able to fulfill all the dreams that they have for themselves. The first video I showed, their passion, the way they want to learn, and what they want to do with their own learning and their careers, Career pathways. We have, Nitin, would you want to talk about this? Unmute yourself, please.
Because I have something to say about the earlier part also. So
Super.
maybe
Should I open that slide for you? We can't hear you. Nitin, we can't hear you. Yeah, perfect.
Take the participants to, what happens behind the scenes. Here, the presentation is talking to you about where this whole thing will take your child and the career pathways and how international education, what it does to your child. But the behind the scenes arena looks at what a teacher looks like in an international school. What is she busy with? What is, that Farzana's videos show an ease of learning that is taking place, and there is a smooth transition between what the students are saying, and but the preparation time, if a teacher in an international school is teaching for say maybe 2-3 hours, she's preparing for 4 or 5 hours, and the preparation, that 4 or 5 hours is not involved in marking attendance or marking homework and worksheets. Of course that is a part of it, but it is all creating those creative opportunities for children to learn, and that is what she's engaged with. So I mean, and that doesn't also come automatically. Our teachers are trained on a regular basis on new approaches, and sometimes they are training themselves and sharing with the rest of the school. Okay, some schools have tech Tuesdays and such things where they are just integrating technology and talking about what they are doing. So sharing and collaboration between teachers, sharing and collaboration between students is a part and parcel of an international education. I thought I would let you know a little bit of what happens with the teachers also. How are they different? How are they responsive? How are they responsible for the learning of every child? It's not mass-produced factory products like Farzana started by saying, but like in my school, our motto is, every child first. So every child gets individual attention, and that's I think the nature of education in almost all international schools. Farzana?
Yes. So the career pathways, please don't feel that, I want to send my child back into the Indian system. So why should I choose an international school? The career pathways are open for your child. At MBIS, that's Mela Devi Bajaj International School, we do the IGCSE in a May-June session, and the results come out, we do it in the March series. Results come out in May. They are ready for getting into college along with the online admission. If they do the IB diploma, the results come out on July 6th, and with predicted grades, they can get into the Indian colleges. So the career pathways are two ways. Either you aspire to send your child overseas, or if you aspire to send your child even to an Indian university, both pathways are open. The doors are open. There is nothing shut for your child, because and that is why Mena Devi Bajaj has also chosen a March series of exams. So for some reason, you don't want to move into a IB diploma program, you want to go to a junior college, pathways are open for your child. And this happens because the IGCSE as well as the IB give you two types of mark sheets. They give you a mark sheet in marks and they give you a mark sheet in letter grades or numerical grades. So depending on where you want to go, the mark sheet you can use and move on with your child's future academic progress. We hear a lot about 21st century skills, collaboration, digital literacy, critical thinking. Please look at your schools and see whether these 21st century are just plastered on the wall or they are actually happening in your day-to-day interaction in the classrooms. Because these are critical for our children to become future ready. And that's what good international schools also do. Remember, change is constant. Don't fear change. I am very well settled. My child is doing very well. Why should I move to an international program? Change is constant, but remember, learning never stops. Your child is in this learning phase. So let him move, let him thrive, and let him be one of the future ready students for whatever he may choose in his life. So, Nitin, any other ways you would like to talk about how we teach students to think critically, whatever? You're muted, sir.
Concept and on skills, your thinking skills, research skills. Now, I think it is established that there is no greater teacher of content than Google. Okay, no teacher knows more than what Google does. But what is it that you look at in Google? What is it that you look at in various search engines? So the research skills become so important because of the huge amount of information that is available. Your thinking skills, research skills, okay, self and time management skills, communication skills. I think, once you are equipped with these skills through your learning process from nursery to IB diploma in an international school, I think you are ready to take on any international educational system. Now, there is a question that is coming here, which I will take along with this comment. Does the international mode of learning prepare you for graduation within the country? Okay. Now, you will find that at least 40 to 50% of the students now, after finishing from their international schools, are moving back into the graduation they are doing within the country. And increasingly, they are looking at various options, and you should see the number of options that have become available to students within India. The good thing about going through an international education is that these new universities and even new way of learning is expecting children to be ready to take on those challenges. And that is what you are preparing the students in an international system. You can clearly recognize a child who has had a liberal international education, even in college within this country. Okay, when they stand in front of a group and address themselves, when they are able to critically look at themselves, saying, "Hey, this is what my journey in education looked like," you know that that person is speaking genuinely and confidently, and that itself has made the child reach at such a level that I think whether you stay in India or abroad, an education that imparts skills and contents is going to be useful throughout.
There was Vishaka wanted to ask us a question. Vishaka, do you want to write your question or unmute yourself and ask us the question? You've raised your hand. Yeah, one question till Vishaka comes on is from Dipti. And she says, after giving them this lovely exposure in international curriculum, would it be good to study in India, But I would say yes, because the international curriculum develops your child. He's ready. So then whether he studies overseas or that, those attributes are there in him. He's a confident child. He's a communicator. He's got a skill set. So you are ready See, like when the pandemic attacked us, nobody knew it would happen and we would all be behind closed doors and this type of Zoom webinars we would be doing. So I want my children to be ready, whatever comes their way, whatever future holds for them. So they are ready. So even if they have to go back to an Indian university, they enjoy. In fact, I'll tell you an experience of some of my children, and they said that, I said, so what is your disadvantage after doing the IB, you move into the international curriculum? Miss, one big disadvantage. So I was wanting it from an academic point. So I said, yes, Miss, we always get caught when we bunk classes. So I said, you get caught when you bunk classes? I don't understand. Miss, we are so used to asking questions in class that we always keep asking questions to our teachers. So when our group is not there, the teacher says, this is a very quiet class. Where is that whole group gone? Miss, that is our disadvantage. And, we had a smile on our face. It also prepares them. I'll share another example with you, friends. I had one student who went in for an Emirates airline interview. He didn't want the job, but his father said, no, not business. You have to do something first before you join my business. He went there, people had lots of files and folders, and he went very casually with his newspaper because he was not bothered to get the job. At the interview, they asked him many things, and the one question he said, for which I got my job, is they asked me, what is the color of the wall behind you? So now if it was a national student who only knows black and white, no shades of gray, the child would have turned around to see the color because he's always used to giving a correct answer. This child, because of the international curriculum, he said, in all probability, 3 sides which I can see are of white. I'm sure the 4th is of white. Whether it was not or no, or yes or no, but he got the job because it showed that he thinks on his feet. He's so out of the box thinker. He doesn't want only black and white answers. So that's, friends, why it's important, even if you want to study back in India, to do this, One other person has asked a question in the question and answers, not in the chat, that why do schools, the national schools, not do what you all are saying? Of course, it's going to come. NEP 2020 is trying to bring all these changes. It will take time, friends. And if your child is in those phases where you don't have 5 or 6 years for him, make the change. But hopefully, we all as Indians are very hopeful with the NEP, which is a visionary document, our schools may change. But again, the only handicap I see, because there are 40, 45 students in a class, all these participation critiques that I talk about becomes a little challenging, for the teacher.
Fazana, I want to come in here about choosing of a national curriculum. I think a parent's thinking is often security and insecurity based in choosing a board. So your thinking is like, I went through this kind of an education and I'm doing fine. Okay, so why should I not have the same pathway for my child? How unfortunately, the reality of the matter is that earlier the pathways were clear. I did science or art or commerce, engineering, but now the pathways are becoming increasingly unclear. It is almost impossible to say what a future job is going to look like. So it is important that we give a very broad education to our children, which will be possible in an international school. Now, in 10th from ICSC to IGCSC, or in the 9th even, there is a question coming whether a child can shift in the 10th from ICSC to IGCSC or even in the 9th. Yes, I think if you shift in the 9th, of course, then you are not going to be able to appear for your ICSC examination and you're joining an international board. Okay, so if you join a school if your child has already been doing IGCSE and a CAI curriculum and then shifts in the 9th standard, then the transition would be smooth. They will go ahead and appear for the IGCSE examination.
It's not about, yes, of course, IG certified teachers It's not, there is no certification for IG certified teachers. Teachers have to be two things: experienced in dealing with an international curriculum and should have attended Cambridge workshops. That makes them eligible to be IGCSE teachers. And that's what a good school will do, is always keep training their teachers, so that not only the ones which come with Cambridge, but also hands-on, day-to-day, having mentors within the school who are very, very experienced to do it. So there is no certificate. If I do that exam, I become IG certified teacher. I become IG certified if with my experience and by attending some Cambridge workshops.
May I add something here, Fazana?
Yes, please do, sir.
So, both in IB and IGCSE, the IG and IBCSE training is almost a continuous process. Let me tell you that I have been teaching IB economics for the last 25 years. Okay, I am a workshop leader also. So what is my IB training? Next week, 26th, 27th, and 28th, I am going to myself attend a workshop because the curriculum has changed. Okay, my basic qualifications are, of course, I am certified to teach, I have done my bachelor's, master's, etc. Okay, but that qualifies me to teach any of the boards. But how do I get IB or CAIE training? It is through these workshops. And that is what is IB or IGCSE training.
Super. I would definitely, being in both, I have been an ICSE head as well as I've worked in the international IGCSE curriculum. Yes, definitely. I think a good move would be to enter into a Cambridge school at this point, because it's so much, you're teaching your child, nurturing him from the beginning. So one parent has asked this question, Namrata. She has also think, no, I don't think with their schemes of work, because what they give are learning outcomes and schemes of work, Namrata. But it's the implementation in the classroom which is very essential. And that's what you need to see in a school, how good the teachers are. All Cambridge schools will have certified teachers. They will all have access to these schemes of work, which are lovely. I also agree. But there's a gap always between the lip and the cup. So you need to check it out for yourselves. No, I don't think one question someone is asking that the amount of fees. Now we have some very good national curriculum schools which are also expensive. There are always some sort of scholarships available. So if your child is good, if you are interested, it's always good to go and have a chat with the school. I'm sure if your child is good and you are very focused, there can be some scholarships available for you even in international schools.
Having said which, I think we need to emphasize that the amount of training and the infrastructure that you will see in an international school, including tech integration, is of a completely different level. Okay, so international schools are certainly more expensive than schools that teach national curriculum. But then the moot question is, what is it that you want to afford your child? What is it that you want to give your child is something that each parent needs to decide. How much do you want to invest in your child's future? And if you're convinced that an international education is the correct pathway, then you have to make a choice about what the expenses are throughout, from say nursery all the way through to 12.
There is no gifted program in any international school. What happens, friends, is there is differentiation. And what do I mean by differentiation? So when suppose if I'm teaching decimals in class 3, I know these two kids who are very gifted, they're very maths inclined. So my challenge to them and my worksheet will be of a more higher caliber than the average which I would give the class. So everybody is doing decimals, but I challenge them more because they are more gifted in that subject. So we don't have a separate gifted program. I don't think any school has, but we use differentiation techniques to help all types of children to grow. Okay.
At the same time, Farzana, I must add that when your child comes to the IGCSE or IB level, if your child is gifted in math, there is three levels of math that are available, say in IGCSE. There is core mathematics for people who really don't want to study math but need to know some basics about mathematics. Okay, there is extended mathematics, which is for the average math student, and then there is additional mathematics, which challenges the child that Namrata you are mentioning, right? So that would be addressing the child, saying that that same thing happens in IB. In the IBDP program, you have got mathematical analysis, which higher level, which is really challenging mathematics, or mathematical application, standard level, where you will learn about how math works in the world. Okay.
Dimple has said, yes, if you are interested in a job opportunity in our school, you can look at our website, MBIS, and you can apply based on whatever we do. You need to apply and the HR team will get in touch with you,
Is it difficult? There is one question, let us answer it quickly. Is it difficult for children doing competitive exams like IIT or IIS? IIS, of course, the children can appear for, but IIT, the examination time clashes with the IB examination time. Also remember that in child going through the Indian system who wants to appear for IIT starts preparing as early as grade 9. Okay, and they are focused on preparing for IIT. In 10th and 11th standard, it gets intensified. Okay, however, the IB diploma program itself is a very challenging program, and it takes up your entire energy out there. Okay, so if you want to appear for competitive exams like IIT, students have taken this pathway that they have had a very solid IB education, then they have taken a gap year just to prepare for the IIT examination and have succeeded out there. So they have benefited from an international education as well as they have managed to focus on IIT, because even in IIT, the method of studying, okay, is the one that you'll find is followed in an IB education. Farzana, there are questions flowing in fast and furious.
If the choice is between IB and IGCSE system, which one would you suggest?
Shall I take it on?
Yes, you can. And I would say it's like a Pepsi and a Coke for you to choose.
Yes, I think they are complementary. So IGCSE is an examination. Okay, the board is CAI, that is a Cambridge board, and the IB is another board, which is the International Baccalaureate Organization. And if you do the IGCSE up to 10th standard, it seamlessly flows through the IB diploma program. You have the option of doing the CAI program all the way from nursery to your 12th standard, and you have the option of doing your IB program also from nursery through to 12th standard. So the IB's primary years program is called MYP, okay, the PYP, and its middle school program is called the MYP, and the diploma program is called the IBDP. Okay, so that is the pathway there, and CAI or IGCSE has a similar pathway all the way. Now, would you choose between IB and Cambridge curriculum? Okay, I would say, I mean, I have been an IB practitioner for 25 years, so I am like, I know I'm very familiar with both the systems, but I find IB is a far broad-based program than an A level, which is what you do after the IGCSE. Because in the A level program, you have to make your choices in your 11th standard, whereas the IB keeps this option open till you have finished 11th and 12th standard. Because frankly speaking, parents, in grade 10, when your child is 14 or 15 years old, child is as confused as anybody else, okay, and is guided by what is happening around him. So if you give the child 2 more years to become an independent learner, I think it makes much more sense. Whether you do it in the IB system or IGCSE system, those are preferences. I, of course, am talking about the IB system.
I just would like to add, though I have been the IB representative for 17 years, most Indians prefer the Cambridge program for whatever reason up in the 8th, 9th, 10th, because there is a formal exam at the end of grade 10, which is easy to move if you have to move into the Indian system. That's all I would like to comment on.
Yeah.
So I think we've sort of answered everything. So friends, thank you very much for being part of with us for a Sunday morning for an hour, and we hope we've thrown some light and helped you in taking decision.
Thank you, Farzana madam. Thank you parents for coming. It has been a wonderful time. I know there are lots of questions. Will the webinar be shared with the attendees? Yes, I'm not sure, Farzana, is the webinar
I don't think so. I
All
don't think so. If you have any question, you can email to us and we can get back to you if you have any further queries. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for attending.